right, my friends. So I have seen Superman. I highly encourage you to check out my review for the movie. I talked about what I liked, what I disliked, maybe some things I was a little mixed on. But overall, for people who don't know, I was a big fan of the film. I really enjoyed it. I love that it focused so much on Superman just being a kind, warm character. You know, I thought that's been missing a lot of Superman adaptations for the last decade. Hell, you can even argue 20 years. Certainly theatrical adaptations. Like, I'm not a big fan of Superman Returns, and I certainly was not a fan of things like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, that whole DCEU Snyder era. I think this was a return to form for the character, focusing on what made Superman, kind and warm and human. And I think that's on full display throughout this entire movie. Like, he goes out of his way to save as many people as he can. That is always the forefront of his mind, even though that sometimes gets him in trouble with the powers that be, and people manipulate, those certain moments with him throughout the movie. But I thought David Cornsweet did such a wonderful job playing the character throughout the entire film. And I also really enjoyed the supporting cast for the most part, too. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane was great. Her chemistry with David Cornsweet, I thought, was amazing. You completely buy them as a couple. They have those great moments, those hot moments, chat, which I'll get into more detail in just a bit. But also even those more conflicting, like, points of view and how they view the world. Like, Superman is this very altruistic figure. He believes in the best of humanity, where Lois Lane, she's a bit of a realist. She's more cynical. She can see the worst in humanity, and like, one of the best parts of the film was just their kind of confrontation, but still at the same time still loving each other. I thought that was great. Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is fantastic. This is the slimiest, most narcissistic, petty live action Lex Luthor that I think we've ever gotten. I just love how petulant he is, and how he knows that he's consumed by his envy and jealousy of Superman. Matter of fact, he states it in the film, and he's proud to say it, just because he just hates him that much, and so much of the plot is just around, like, I just want to destroy this guy because I hate him, because everyone thinks he's so great, and people should be looking at me, I'm better than him, and I love that they focus that on that in this movie. But then, the wonderful supporting cast of the Justice Gang. I really enjoyed Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. He was very fun. I mean, he's an asshole. He's a douchebag, but he inevitably does the right thing. Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. I mean, he was, forget the pun, terrific throughout the entire film. He similar to Lois Lane in a way, a bit cynical, very frustrated, the smartest guy in the room, and he's kind of done with how obnoxious some people are, but he brought a lot to this movie, and he has some of the best standout moments, and he's like, I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific. I don't need your help, stuff like that. I thought that was so great. And I really, really enjoyed Superman's parents, his adoptive parents, that is, Jonathan and Martha Kent. I really, really love them, played by Pruitt Taylor Vince and Neva Howell. They have some of the best wholesome moments throughout this entire movie, in my opinion. Some stuff that actually made me a little water-eyed, matter of fact. Really, again, showcases Superman's humanity. And again, I've always said this, like, the Kents are so important to Superman's upbringing. Like, they're the ones that instilled that sense of kindness, his humanity, his sense of morality, into him at an early age, and raising him all up to be the man, the Superman that he became. Without them, it could have been a lot worse, right? So I love that I wanted more scenes of them, matter of fact. And in Krypto, which I think was an element a lot of people were concerned about, they used Krypto just enough in this movie, and he's really funny and adorable. I ended up really enjoying him throughout the film. I'll talk more about his individual scenes in just a bit. And there was some stuff that didn't. Oh, and I really like Jimmy Olsen in the film, played by Skylar Gisondo. I thought he was great. Like, they made him more of a ladies' man. I thought that was very funny. If I have any criticisms, like, not every single joke lands in this movie. If you're not a fan of James Gunn's humor, then I can see where a lot of the humor in the movie might not work for you. But again, humor is the most subjective of genres. What I may find funny, you may not find funny, and vice versa. But there were some humorous moments I was like, you can get rid of this, and I think it'll be better paced. Although there was funny stuff in the film, and like, there were some underwritten characters in the movie, particularly Isabel Merced. which I didn't feel like there was a lot of great stuff written for her, but at the same time, outside of like Dora the Explorer, I just haven't really enjoyed her performances in anything I've seen her in. Whether it be, Alien Romulus or The Last of Us season 2, I'm just like, she's just not a very charismatic actor. But to be fair, they didn't really write a lot for her. We don't even know what kind of hot girl this is. Is this the one that's been, reincarnated all this time? Or is this very much the Thanagarian alien? Like, I just don't know. And I think the movie at times can feel very overwhelming, and because this is a total just homage and love letter to Silver Age DC, and it has some big, bold, beautiful, wacky, crazy. I mean, it wears weirdness on its entirety, on its sleeves constantly. And some people may not vibe with that, and if they want a more grounded, serious take on Superman, for instance. But if you're a fan of things like the DC Silver Age or All-Star Superman or Superman the Animated Series, or even something like My Adventures with Superman more recently, that wears that weirdness, then I feel like you can vibe with the movie. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Had some criticisms, but I really did enjoy the film. Now, getting to the big spoilers of the movie. So here we go, chat. This at the start. One, I like how the movie starts, essentially, where James Gunn has this, like, we're starting like in the Arctic, and you have like all this text starts appearing on screen where pretty much James Gunn explains that metahumans, superhumans, supervillains have been around for at the very least 300 years, which is very interesting to me. So it's like, oh, we could possibly do stuff like the JSA, like Justice Society of America, right? Or we can do Jonah Hex someday if they ever wanted to. I think that would be kind of cool to do more period piece superhero films. But they established that it's 300 years, like superhumans have been around for 300 years. 30 years ago, Kal-El, Superman landed on Earth, raised by the Kents. 3 years ago, Superman revealed himself to the world. He's been Superman for 3 years, essentially. And then I think it was like 3 days ago or something, like Superman stopped a war between these two fictional countries. Although very much was like an allegory between Russia and Ukraine, but, take that for what you will. And then I think it was like 3 minutes ago, Superman lost his first fight, which is against the Hammer of Baravia, but we find out is actually Ultraman. And I really like how they started. Like James Gunn's like, listen, superhumans have been around for a long time. People are used to them. That's why you have like certain scenes where people are just fucking watching a kaiju battle and they're taking selfies and shit because like, it's just like this is every other Tuesday. Something like this happens, which I thought was really cool. So I like the opening. I like that we saw Superman just getting his ass kicked immediately, like broken, bloody, needing, calling for Krypto, take me home, boy. And Krypto being a dumb dog is like, he doesn't understand, right? Drags him home. You see all the Superman robots, which I thought was really cool. I love that he calls them Superman. He doesn't call them like a scientific, sci-fi term or something like these are, the androids, the Kryptonians. He's like, these are Superman robots. I just thought that was very Silver Age. I thought that was really funny. And then eventually, going out there, into the fray. Now, obviously, that was all done as we come to learn. That the reason why they want Superman to crash land there, or Lex Luthor wanted that, who's been monitoring Superman for years, has all these contingency plans for him, is because he wants to find the Fortress of Solitude. He wants more information on Superman, on his Kryptonian heritage, and all that. And that sets up like a big major plot point later on in the film. But I really like that opening of the movie. And then goes back and fights the Hammer of Baravia, or what the hell it's called. And of course we find out that that's Ultraman. Really fun opening. I also love in that sequence that like Superman is actively like trying to like prevent collateral damage like throughout the entire fight. And that was so refreshing to see in a theatrically released Superman film because again, we haven't gotten that in a while. So really love that. And then of course after that we get to one of the next big moments in the movie for me, which was just focusing on his relationship with Lois Lane. And I love how like Lois Lane, she's like going home after, spending a day at the Daily Planet work and stuff. She enters like the apartment, she hears someone like moving around, she gets the bat, because Lois, she's feisty, she'll fight back, she doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't give a fuck if you have superpowers, she'll kick your ass if she can. And she gets in there, and of course it's Clark doing like such a, corny thing, like it's breakfast for dinner, which I thought was, I've also had breakfast for dinner before, but I love that. That's his favorite meal is breakfast for dinner. And you get a sense that they've they have known each other for a while at the very least, but now they're in this relationship for at least 3 months. They're in the honeymoon period, and they're getting handsies too. Like, I like that Clark's like, give me them cheeks, and he like instantly, like, they start smooching, just grabs her big old booty and just puts her on the countertop. It's like, are they gonna start stupping shit? Is gonna be some super smooching and stupping? No, there's actually an argument, and I like that we see all the context with that scene of where she starts to question essentially what Clark was doing and stopping that war, and she's kind of like critiquing him that you're essentially doing puff pieces about yourself, you're interviewing yourself, and she's like, or he suggests, all right, go ahead and interview me, and I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the entire film. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and how he gets, he's getting frustrated, he's getting angry. He's just like, but, because, despite him agreeing to the terms of like, oh yeah, you're a journalist interviewing me, it's just like, but you're my girlfriend. you're supposed to support me, and they have a nice back and forth. They both make great points, and it kind of ends with Lois Lane's like, I knew this wouldn't work, and he's like, what do you mean? Instantly concerned, and she's like, nothing. And even though you find out that she struggles in relationships, or she thinks that she struggles in relationships, I thought that was a wonderful, very human moment in the movie. And it instantly showcases the excellent chemistry between David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan, Superman and Lois Lane. I really, really love that scene. And then, sometime later we get to another big moment, which I really think showcased Superman's humanity, is when he's fighting the kaiju. First of all, I love it's like a distraction with Lex Luthor, and they just unleash. I like little scaly monster creatures that are kind of derpy looking and then grow into these huge behemoths. It's like, it's just a thing I enjoy. Where Lex Luthor's henchman essentially unleashed this thing, and it like falls out of this cage, and it's like, it's just has its little claws, its little chubby arms just waving in the air. It's like fucking knocking over garbage cans. It's falling over. It's like, blah, it's like, vomiting fire up. Thought that was great. And then it gets in. The guy goes to the other. He's like, it's kind of small, don't you think? He's like, it'll get bigger, and it does get bigger, and it becomes like a kaiju essentially. And it's created, uses this huge distraction for Superman. And I love how Superman's entire engagement with that creature, he's like, not only is he protecting all the citizens and denizens of Metropolis, like he saves all these kids. He's even, there's this one moment where the creature's like gonna be smashing against this building. He stops, and the glass is breaking behind him, and he kind of pushes it forward, and he checks, you guys are okay? Like, I loved all that. But at the same time, he's still concerned for the well-being of this creature. I really, really love that. It's not just him. You think in the trailer, it's like, oh, he's punching the fuck out of this thing. He's trying to kill it. It's like, no. That's when we first see the introduction, the proper introduction to the Justice Gang. They're working on the name, TBD. Which introduces Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific. Like, they don't give a fuck. They just want to kill this thing. He's like, no, like, stop it. And then Mr. Terrific, like, Green Lantern is really fucked up, where Green Lantern is essentially trying to gouge its eyes out with, like his ring, creating like a strange, like, eye pokey apparatus, and Hawkgirl's coming in there with her, giant mace just wailing on its eyeball. Mr. Terrific, of course, smarter than them, he figures out, like, I'm just going to launch my little balls, which sounds horrible when I say that. He's going to put his balls inside the creature's mouth, and they go down into its digestive system, and basically explode, killing it. And I love it even when Superman, he also, because this thing could have easily just fell over, crashed over buildings, but he actually grabs it and lowers it so slowly as it's dying, and makes sure that there's no other collateral damage. And then he confronts them. He's just like saying, God damn it, guys, like, we could have put this thing in like an intergalactic zoo, and he even concedes like, if that was not possible, at least euthanize it in a more humane way. And I love that. I thought that was great. And then, of course, and I love that they have all the kids. And this is very interesting, because you notice after the Justice Gang does all that, Superman's complaining, I think Mr. Terrific, and then like the Justice Gang instantly walk up to the media, like Gugger's like, hey, how you doing, everybody? Like the media's there, they're asking him questions, and you notice like Superman is not interacting with the media first. He's hanging out with all the kids. Like, the kids are going, oh, Superman. He's like, hey, come here. He's like raising them up and stuff, and he's hugging them and like saying thank you. He's like, oh, it's fine. Like all that. I love that. And then you get the reveal. And this is the big controversial moment in the movie. I think for a lot of people, and I'm very much of two minds with this moment, where early in the film, when Superman's injured, the Superman robots, they play this message of his birth parents, Jor-El and his mother. And Jor-El played by Bradley Cooper, which I didn't. I was like, it's Bradley Cooper. I thought that was good casting for Jor-El. And it's really just essentially it's a small cameo role. This has like a big importance in the film. And in the message, it's basically Jor-El and his mother, Lana, or was it Laura? Lara. Essentially saying like, listen, the planet's Krypton is like, the whole spiel. The planet's doomed, but we're sending you here. We want you to, save these people, be the best person that you can possibly be. Like all that, what you've heard time and time again. And but then a part of the message, the last half of the message essentially is corrupted, right? Lex Luthor obtains this, and he puts it out here, and it's apparently this is what the original message says. It hasn't been manipulated or whatever. We'll come to see, but the other back half of the message essentially is Jor-El saying, yes, and once you get there, and once you start saving everybody, I want you to create a harem. I want you to spread your seed. I want you to spread your seed across the world, give birth to a new Krypton, rule over them, my son, essentially become like a dictator, and Superman's first time he's hearing this, and he's like, like everyone's freaking out, and this is that's essentially the plot of the film. Is Lex Luthor, he is manipulating the public opinion, the government, and the media against Superman to discredit him, to make him enemy number one. And it's effective. And a lot of people have a lot of feelings about this. In the context of the film, I think it works. I was like, it makes sense. Like, I get it. And then it's Superman struggling with that because it's like, but this is my destiny. This is what my parents said I need to do. And it's just like, it puts into question. I was actually sent here as an evil, a despotic ruler. It's like, it completely throws his mind out of whack. And then it sets up a number of great moments throughout the film. And so I think it works in the context of the film and the story that they're telling. I mean, yes, there's a part of me that I prefer the idea of Jor-El and Lana, or Laura, excuse me. We're saving our son, but maybe he can help these people. Like Krypton is doomed, but he can help this planet, right? And I've always liked that. I've liked that in the original Richard Donner film with Marlon Brando as Jor-El. I really like that, obviously. Even, listen, as critical as I am Man of Steel, one of my favorite parts of Man of Steel actually is the beginning of that movie with Russell Crowe as Jor-El. I think that's probably the strongest part of the film, honestly. And I really like that. And so, like, this was every time. So it's like, I'm conflicted. But at the same time, it narratively works. It reminds me of the Telltale Batman game, where they change up Batman's origin to a degree, where Batman believes, like, my parents were murdered and, inspired me to become Batman and everything. Well, during the events of that game, if you've never played, the Telltale game, then spoilers, he comes to learn that his parents were pretty shitty people. And that they were involved in organized crime. They covered up a lot of stuff, throughout, their lives. They were essentially criminals, right? Working with Carmine Falcone, possibly murdering people. Bruce Wayne's dad, worked at Arkham Asylum and, they interred and committed people that were political enemies of the Wayne, critics of the Waynes and stuff like that, and just destroys, Bruce's view of his family, of his parents. And again, very different take on the Waynes, right? Who oftentimes, more often than not, are portrayed as these very moral figures, in Bruce's life. This loving couple trying to do right by Gotham City, and then they were either just randomly killed, or maybe there was a conspiracy in which someone sought out to kill them. Like that's typically what you see. But it was very different, and controversial. But it worked in the context of the story that they were telling. And so I'm completely okay with it, right now. But I understand some people being frustrated by it. But I'm like, all right, it works. Because Superman was not raised by Jor-El. He was not raised by his birth mother. He comes to be raised by the Kents. And their scenes, they are the ones that instilled that sense of morality in him. But he's also making, as Pa Kent points out in the film, you are making these choices. Okay, your father isn't forcing you to do these things. Your choices make you who you are. That's what's important. Not what your father had ideas for you. No, you alone. And I really liked that. I thought that was very, very nice. But that's the big, I think, controversial point in the film, and I'm not really bothered by it too much. But then it just sets up, sets off this tidal wave of media coverage and things, and we get one of the best parts where you're watching this talk show host who's talking to some guys. What are your opinions on this? And it's John Cena as Peacemaker, and he's like, Superman's a fucking asshole. I always knew it. I thought that was very funny. Like that got a big laugh in my audience. I don't know if you guys had that, but that got a big laugh. I thought that was great. It's like, of course Peacemaker would talk shit about Superman. Of course. He would always deflect off his own flaws and go after this guy. So that was really wonderful. And then it sets up another great conversation with Clark and Lois, and and her saying like, what is all this? And it's like, this isn't true. And he going, no, it is true. And them having a heart to heart, and them essentially apologizing to each other, but recognizing what the other one was saying. Again, them acting like adults, which I thought was really great. Plus you have this kaiju battle in the background where you have the Justice Gang fighting. I think as Superman called it, it's an interdimensional imp. It's fine. I deal with those every other month. They got it, which I thought was very funny. Another really wholesome moment. And then eventually we get to the whole Superman is essentially arrested. He's like, I'm going to face the repercussions of this. Like they have a warrant out for my arrest. Let's go. And so he's arrested by, essentially Lex Luthor, but United States government. The United States government hands him over to Lex Luthor, and we see like Rick Flag and Frank Grillo and everything. He's like, it's not my fucking decision, Big Blue. This is the higher ups. This is what this, it's out of my pay range. And he eventually is thrown into this pocket dimension prison created by Lex Luthor, which I would argue is the most Silver Age sequence in the movie, just in terms of of what it looks like and just all the weird shit that we see, where essentially Lex Luthor, who is so fucking petty, this is where he keeps all the people that have ever criticized him or have ever annoyed him or ever crossed him. Like everyone from journalists who have written like op-eds that are critical of Luthor Corp, to like ex-girlfriends, to like, I mean, at one point, then this is what's so goddamn tragic about it. Like he captures this one guy who fucking likes to make falafels for Superman, who helped him in the earlier part of the film when he was fighting against Hammer Bravey. He's like, who the fuck is that guy? Who is that guy, right? And Superman's essentially put into a cell of Metamorpho, played by Anthony Carrigan, who I really liked in the film a lot. And because I forget if they say like there's no, because they already know about the concept of kryptonite. Like that's all known at this point. But I feel like, I forget, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Superman says there's no kryptonite on Earth right now, and fucking, or the kryptonite is in one location, or maybe it's controlled by the U.S. government, and they're not using it now. I forget the context. But Lex Luthor is like, that's okay, I got my own kryptonite, which Metamorpho was able to create kryptonite, essentially, and keep Superman at bay. And at one key, also there's, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, there's this one wacky fucking scene where they've also captured Krypto, and they have like this device on them where they're literally pumping images of like squirrels, of like flying squirrels or something. He's like, until it's like essentially until he exhausts himself and dies. And then there's this one scene which is just straight out of a Jack Kirby comic book where you see tens of thousands of monkeys monkeys at typewriters or keyboards in this sense, typing out mean and nasty shit about Superman on social media, like little brain control devices. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. I thought that was so funny. I was thinking it's like, it's all the Snyder fans like, fucking Man of Steel is better, super shit, restore the Snyderverse. Like, I'm going to use that liberally in the future. I thought it's a bunch of Snyder bro monkeys. Yeah. I was like, that's fucking perfect. I like that he's like hashtag super shit. He's like, Lois, I hate that. You don't like super shit. That was great. But then we get to like a really dramatic and fucked up scene where Lex Luthor takes the falafel guy and is essentially playing Russian roulette with him. And he's like just questioning him. He's like, how do you know Superman? He's like, he puts one bullet in there, spins the chamber, and then, pulls the trigger and everything. Then it doesn't go off. There's no bullet. And then he spins it again. He asks something else. And meanwhile, Clark is just begging him. He's just like, leave him alone. He just gives me falafel sometimes. Just leave him alone. And Lex Luthor's like, I don't give a fuck. And he pulls the trigger and boom, he kills him. He shoots him. And it's so funny because Lex Luthor says, I thought that would last longer. It's like, God, you are so fucking evil. You killed the falafel guy. And I love that they made the falafel guy a big hero at the end, where because Lex Luthor eventually is exposed for all his fucking crimes and shit and all the horrible things that he's done. And they have the falafel guy in the Daily Plan, which I really like. But I was like, God damn. I thought that was great. Really love that. And then eventually, throughout the film, Rachel Brosnan's Lois Lane's like, where the fuck is Superman? I don't know where he is. I'm scared. And she goes to the Justice Gang, name TBD. And Guy Gardner doesn't really want to help. Like, he's like, I like Superman, but he wants a space harem. And Lois Lane's like, no, he fucking doesn't, you dunce. And Hawk Girl's just there. Like, they really, I would ask them, like, man, if I ever, talk to James Gunn, be like, listen, there's a lot I love about this movie, but I don't feel like you did a lot of Hawk Girl. She's kind of like the Ronin of this film. Like, my big criticisms of original Guardians of the Galaxy is like, man, they don't know what to fucking do with this guy. Same with her. She's just there. She's like, I don't want to do it. Why? It's like, okay. But Eddie Gathie's Mr. Terrific's like, nah, something's up. Something's fucking up. I'll help you. And then you set up a really great dynamic with them. I really loved all their scenes, except for this one scene. Like, one joke that really, I was like, this doesn't work for me. And again, humor's subjective. But it's the scene where Lois, like, essentially Mr. Terrific agrees, like, oh, I'll help you. And he's like, okay, I'll get my car. He's like, no, I'll get my ship. Which, that's what it should have ended with. Like, oh, that was funny. But then we cut to, like, outside the Hall of Justice. Oh, by the way, the Hall of Justice makes his live-action debut. Beforehand, I don't think the Hall of Justice ever debuted theatrically, which that was pretty cool. And I think there was, like, a mural of the JSA, which was really interesting. So it's like, are we going to get, like, the OG Green Lantern and all them? That'd be kind of cool. That'd be wonderful for a movie. However, they're outside this garage. Mr. Terrific hits the button to open the garage, and it's like super slow. And I was like, and it's like taking a while. I'm like, okay. Personally, that didn't work for me. I didn't find it very funny. Anyway, they go off and they find the Luthor's one of the entrances to his pocket dimension prison. They go in there and stuff, and eventually they help Superman escape along with Metamorpho, and they get Metamorpho's weird, gross son, and and they really cool. I love the scene where he's in like the weird Tetris goop river. I thought that was really cool. Just all the colors. Again, very Silver Age, very Jack Kirby, and but Superman's all fucked up because he has kryptonite poisoning, and they go to the Kent farm essentially. And this is where we get some of the best scenes in the movie, just with Superman and his parents. And I love that they're super concerned. This is when I started getting a little water-eyed, where his parents were kind of concerned because they didn't know what to do. They never encountered this with their son before. And like Martha's like, what happened? What happened? And they don't even know who Lois is. They're like, who are you? Like, which I thought was great. And then like, and Jonathan's like particularly like really, really upset and he's crying. And I love that Martha's like, oh, he just gets very mushy, with Clark. It's just kind of how he is. Mr. Mush, which I thought was funny. Loved everything with them. And then we get that wonderful scene where it's Jonathan talking to Clark, and because Clark is just so distraught because everything he thought was like, this is my destiny. My parents sent me here for this reason. And it's not the reason I thought that has defined me. And Jonathan's saying like, it's not about that. It's the things that you do. It's the choices that you make. That's what defines what you are. And that's what makes you a good person. I don't know what your destiny was, but this is who you are. And I thought that's what Clark needs to hear. And then eventually Luthor was just fucking losing his mind at this point. He's just like, fuck them all, I want my pocket prison. I want my interdimensional pocket prison. And back. And so he activates it despite all of his fucking, team. I love that he has like this team of people and he just treats like fucking shit. He's so petty, like knocking over cups of pencils, like fucking pick it up again. I love that. Very Lex Luthor. They open it up, and it then causes this giant fucking rift that's destroying Metropolis. At the same time, you have the two fictional countries fighting each other. Baravia's like, we're gonna kill all them the Judaporians, wherever they're called. And so Superman's like, all right, I gotta go save Metropolis, while the Justice Gang saves stops the Baravians or whatever. And then we get a big reveal of like, okay, because, Superman fights the Engineer and Ultraman and stuff like that, which is very cool, action scene. But we find out who Ultraman is, which was a question early on. It's like, okay, how did Lex Luthor gain interest in this Fortress of Solitude? It's because Ultraman, I was like, well, if you're familiar with comics, then you know. If you're not, then you probably don't know. But Ultraman typically has been depicted either as a clone of Superman or a alternate dimension Superman, a variant of Superman. And in this case, he was a clone. A big dumb clone that Lex Luthor control. I love he's only slightly dumber than you. I love that he says that. He's only slightly dumber. And they fight, and this is where, Lex Luthor has like his fucking monologue of, I know exactly what I am. I'm not dim. I love that he says that. I'm not dim. I know I'm envious. I know I'm petty. It's what defines me. It's what makes me great. I'm like, wow, dude. And it's just like pummeling him, saying all his goddamn battleship positions to beat the shit out of him. And eventually, Superman defeats Bizarro. He doesn't kill him, or excuse me, I call him Bizarro because I think that's what he's being set up to be. He defeats Ultraman, who's sucked into like a black hole. And I think he's going to be sent to a dimension, and then he's going to become Bizarro. I think that's essentially what he's going to be, is the new Bizarro, which I think is great. So hopefully he gets more of that, like that unique design. And hopefully not Doomsday, because I fucking hate, I know people like Doomsday. I don't like Doomsday. I think Doomsday sucks. And then eventually this all leads to a Lex Luthor confrontation, which is so goddamn good. I love that at that point, like, all of his advisors and his people are saying, like, Lex, we need to go. Lex Luthor's like, all right, fine, we'll go. And he, like, immediately tries to run away. And then Superman just goes in and goes, bah! And just hits him. Very similar to the scene in World's Finest where Batman is, like, interrogating the gangster, and Superman's like, all right, that's enough. And Batman just grabs him and throws him. And Superman's like, what the fuck? And then Batman's, like, feeling himself. He's like, ah, yeah, hell yeah. And then Superman just body checks him. And he slams against the walls, like, just had all the air just completely taken out of his lungs. Pretty much the same thing with Lex Luthor here, which I thought was so great. He picks himself up, and they have that confrontation against not fisticuffs or anything like that. It's this meeting of the minds, and Superman giving this great fucking speech where it's just like, it's not my fucking, it's where Superman admits, it's like, I am human, I get fucking scared. I'm afraid of all these different things. That's what makes me who I am, is my humanity. And Lex Luthor just fucking hates that. He despises that. And then Krypto flies in after he's about to say something like really nasty to Superman. Krypto flies in and just beats the shit out of Lex Luthor. Just throwing him around the room, breaks his arm. He's like, ah! And everyone's like, oh, stop it. And Clark's like, bad dog. But he's like, good dog. And then, Lex Luthor picks himself up and he starts crying because he's so, not because he's in pain, but he's also so angry. I love that he worked himself up so much. He's just crying. And then eventually he's arrested. I think what they call him, you fucking bald fuck, you're going to Belle Reve, which sets up, I think, something interesting possibly with him meeting with other super criminals, perhaps even the Joker. I think set up like a World's Finest movie, but we'll see. And then, everyone's like, yay, we won. They put the city back together and stuff. And then, Rachel Brosnan's Lois Lane, David Corns with Superman, they're smooching and grabbing butts, which is always lovely to see, the two of them just grabbing cheeks. And then we get to the end of the movie where Superman is at the Fortress of Solitude. He's being healed by the Superman robots who've all managed to repair themselves. And someone crashes through the Fortress of Solitude, and it's Supergirl. It's Kara Zor-El, who's drunk, played by Millie Alcock. And she's like, where's my fucking dog? And it's like, oh, because he says, like, he's not my dog. I'm taking care of him for someone. And it's like, it's actually Supergirl's dog. And that also explains why he's such a little shit, because she's a shit. Because she's a complete mess, which is clearly borrowing from a Supergirl run where she had a very different upbringing than Clark. She witnessed the destruction of Krypton. She was essentially raised in a fucking rock in outer space, surviving, and it's kind of the way she is. And I imagine we're going to explore that in the new movie. And then she leaves. She's like, bye, bitch. Right. And then Superman continues his healing process, kind of taking some time for himself. And he asks his Superman robots to show him the message, show him the stuff from his parents. And the robots keep saying, like, oh, he always calms us down. And it's not of Jor-El and his mother, but it's of Jonathan, Martha, Kent, and all the wonderful scenes throughout his entire childhood, which I thought was very, very wholesome. And that is essentially Superman. That was all the major plot points and big scenes that I really enjoyed. Again, most of the stuff I thought, great, a few things I'm critical of, but overall, I really enjoyed the movie. What about you guys? Let me see what you guys have to say about these scenes, these moments. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Oh, Angela Terrible, Harhands, thank you so much for the review. For the raid. I did the review. You did the raid. Thank you. Oh, man. Let's see here. I like that they're horny, which we need more of in movie. I 100% agree. This is a horny movie. Like, there's a lot of horny stuff in it, like with Miss Tessmacher. Like, she's horny and not as dumb as you think. She's very strategic with her selfies, right? Like, Jimmy, he's a little horn dog. You got Cat Grant, she's revealing the boobies. I was like, this is nice to look at. You got there's a lot of handsome men and pretty ladies in this movie. It looks all good. But thank you, Angela. I'm sorry that I missed the raid. Luthor is so proud. Yeah, he even says, I'm a hater. Got micro dick energy, definitely. Definitely. Oh, man. Mr. Ed was the absolute standard. He was great. Why you say that name? Starts foaming at the mouth. I was apprehensive about the Kents at first because I was worried they make them too hickish. Sure. But on his last scene with them, I thought I was on board. I think I can see where like that first scene when they're talking to him. I think he's walking the Daily Plan. He's on the phone with them, and like they have him on speakerphone. But like Martha is like she's like yelling into it, and I some people are critical of it, but it's like my parents are the exact same way. I was just like, that's the exact same. I was like, I knew exactly what they were doing because I experienced that exact thing where my parents were initially like not used to speakerphone because they were like, pick up the phone. I was like, I gotta spin the rotor. And so when they first started using speakerphone, they were like yelling, thinking that they had to be like really loud. And so I was like, this is pretty accurate though. Yeah, I thought Elizabeth. Yeah, I just didn't care for Hawk Girl. She wasn't bad. She's just kind of there. I feel like whenever Hawk Girl gets more of a role in the future projects, I hope so. I want to know if she's the Thanagarian. I want them to do the Justice League version. Mm-hmm. Deadpool. Oh, this is it. 300 years ago, the first metahumans appeared. 30 years ago, Superman came to Earth. 3 years ago, Superman appeared. 3 years ago, Superman stopped war. 3 minutes ago, he lost his first fight, which I thought was a really cool way to start the film. And he goes, boom, and he crashes into the ice. 3 minutes later, Superman got his ass whooped. 3 seconds later, he's bleeding. Chris Harris says the first act feels kind of wonky to me, even though it still does a lot of stuff I like, mostly because since they're trying hard to dodge the origin, the setup of his daily life. Kind of feels like a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist, albeit a good sequel. I did think them going by threes in text was actually pretty clever. I thought that was funny, clever too. No, I don't disagree with you. I think, yes, I think Gunn was very much like, I don't want to do an origin. That was very much in the forefront of his mind. Maybe he overcorrected to a degree because I wouldn't have minded. Because that's the thing. Like, I like by the time we get to this, I felt a lot more comfortable once we got to the first big Lois and Clark moment with the interview. Like, that was the first. I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to vibe with the film a lot more because it felt like it was doing a lot very quickly in that first, 15, 20 minutes. It was like, it's overwhelming. It feels overwhelming. But then when it slows down, it's like, okay, now I see what you're doing here. Now this is feeling good. So I don't disagree with that. I think that's a criticism I can get on board with. Breakfast food is that. There is breakfast I like, but I love that's his favorite though. Lois Lane, hell yeah, she got a booty on her. It's kind of small. Glasses guy, it will get bigger. Black Otis, Bloatus. Oh, man, I love Bloatus. I love Black Otis. Some people are fucking pissed off that they turned Otis black. It's like, first of all, most people didn't even fucking know that was Otis until, there was a mention. I was like, oh, it's so fun. Where Superman, Lex Luthor goes, Otis. And it cuts to that. I was like, oh, it's Otis. I thought it was funny. People were losing their fucking minds, even though he only has, 3 scenes. It's ridiculous. Black Otis was good, though. I like Bloatus. And he's competent. He's not dumb. He's not doing the whole Mr. Luthor. And I love Ned Beatty, but, When Superman stopped the kaiju from falling backward in the buildings is what I was going to bring up as the last card. Yeah, it's a good moment. And he saves a squirrel. He does save a squirrel, which you mentioned. It was giving me PTSD flashbacks to that scene from the Suicide Squad of Harley diving to Starro's eyeball. Yeah. Now keep Bradley Cooper away from the fatty foods going forward. What if that happens? He just blows up. I was like, okay, there is definitely a Jor-El curse going on. There's a Superman curse. Making overplays Jor-El very fat. What happens? And this is the thing that the Snyder Bros had been using to try and stake their claim on Man still being better. And of course, not understanding that the whole point of the movie Superman being against it. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I knew it would be the controversial part of the film. But in the context of the story they're telling, it works. But it's just different what we've experienced. So I go along with it. I understand people going I don't really like that take, but I thought what James Gunn inevitably did by the time we got to especially that scenes of the Kents, it was oh, this all makes sense now. Something similar happened in Marvel where Jor-El message sounds similar to what is said in this film, except without the harem part. And Clark questions if he was set to conquer Earth. Yeah, and that's what some people are speculating now. I'm I wouldn't be surprised. Who knows? Maybe they'll not course correct, but that's not the word. Maybe not retcon, but they'll be well, this is actually what happened. What if Brainiac actually got a hold of that message? Maybe it's a message created by Brainiac, because Brainiac, again, some iterations of Superman, some adaptations of Superman, such as Superman animated series, And My Adventures of Superman, Brainiac is created. He's a Kryptonian AI. And he essentially is the one that covers up all the data in regards to Krypton's destruction. You know, keeps everyone in the dark, essentially. And so him, like, manipulating that message would be interesting, but I don't know if they'll do that. But that's interesting to bring up. Chris says, I'm fine with massive changes like this if it makes the movie better. What do you think this does? I've made the same argument in the past regarding the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3, and also Thor being made into a more comedic character in Ragnarok, at least before they took it too far in Love and Thunder. Made him the simple Jack of the MCU. Simple, that goes a little far, but okay. But when you have Batman pull out a gun and shoot people, I think that makes that movie and that character worse. Yes. I mean, about the Jor-El change, because I always really liked that character, but I'm curious to see what Gunn does with it. Yeah. Derek Leach, Jor-El, and Lara. I always call her Lana. Lara, thank you. Being horrible isn't without precedent. Lara was a conservative xenophobe in the 80s, and Jor-El was shitty and manipulative for a while in the 2010s. Oh, there you go. So maybe that's what he's drawing from. To get detained by ICE. He essentially got detained by ICE, yes. It's terrible. The create his own negatives on prison, like he's Reed Richards, very much so. There's a little pocket dimension. They say that there's no kryptonite on Earth anymore. Okay, I forgot. I was trying to remember. Like, okay, what did they say in regards to the kryptonite? Okay, except Metamorpho. Snyder Bro Monkeys # super shit. He's like, I hate that, Lois. Gone Superman isn't serious enough. So we really watched Luthor execute. Yeah, we shot him. We shot him in the head. We needed a scene of Lex Luthor peeing a jar and giving it to fucking Holly Hunter. Some of Granny's peach tea. That's what we needed. The garage door thing went along. Yeah, I thought it would have been funny if they cut it where it's like super slow and he goes, it takes a minute. Like, I feel like there's something you could have punched up that scene where it wouldn't go, and then he cuts, he's like, sorry, it takes a minute. Like, something like that I think would have been a little bit better. Like, because they were on it for a while. And it's like, oh, isn't it funny that's taking so long and not saying anything? It's like, again, it was one of the moments of humor that just didn't work for me personally. But some people find it funny, you know. But I think it went long. The CG babies, only if I could, like, what was little Jimmy Joe, whatever the hell his name was. He's an ugly little bastard, isn't he? It's like, goo. When Superman was exposed to kryptonite, he started getting wrinkly, look like Bizarro. Yeah, he looked really gross. He did look like Bizarro, yeah. I think Ultraman's going to be Bizarro. That was the Hulk beating Loki moment, yeah. Ultraman's hairstyle made him resemble absolute Superman. It also reminded me of 90s Superman when he had the fucking mullet. The Supergirl movie next year is going to be, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to have a very different tone in this movie. It's going to be darker. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm kind of heavy on that Supergirl movie. I'm not hot and cold in that director, and I think Momoa as Lobo is uninspiring. I think that's just like he was meant to be Lobo. In the same way that he was meant to be Conan the Barbarian, but that didn't work out, so I'm hoping that it's not that kind of case. But at the end of her scene, I was like, oh, she seems fun. Give me more of this. Yeah, I think she's like a mess. You know, she's like very self-destructive. Which is very similar to, I mean, maybe not exactly, but Dark Origins. In My Adventures of Superman, they portray Kara Zor-El very differently than you typically see her. Where she was essentially raised by Brainiac in that show. And it was a very emotionally and physically abusive relationship. Where Brainiac was just fucking out of his mind. You instantly see him as like, and yes, and you know it's Brainiac, but he's like clearly not in control of himself. You talking about mentally unstable. It's like, oh, this explains a lot. Hello, Victor Necrophon. Good to see him. Just reading everyone's comments after my little kind of spoiler review for Superman. I love when they did with Lex outsmarting Superman and being one step ahead. Yeah, I love shit like that. That's Lex Luthor through and through. I think it sets him up to go one-on-one with his power suit and make him. Oh, I'm sure they'll do the power suit. I was wondering if they were gonna like show the power suit or have him in the power suit at one point, but I'm sure they'll do that eventually. Lex Luthor's unhinged. Jimmy Olsen stole his girlfriend, but he's obsessed with Superman. I know, because that's what he really wants is Superman. I really enjoyed the Superman movie. It felt true to the comics, and I can't wait to see more of the DC universe. Me too. I want to see more of this. There's some interview Merced just gave about what she loved about the animated version. I was just like, I can't decipher any of this. Maybe Herman could translate. Oh, okay. So, if that's what they're notably doing, then good. They just need the thing is, they need to do that, because that, in my opinion, it wasn't on display. Because Hawkgirl in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, she's a great character. You know, she's very passionate. She's very brash, she's like, I'm going to speak my fucking mind on this. Maybe she'll fucking swing her mace first and ask questions later. But she's complimented very well by the rest of the Justice League, and she has a really particularly great relationship with Jon Stewart in the show. They become very romantically involved later on. So, we know we're getting Jon Stewart with Aaron Pierre in the Lantern series. So if that's something, I think that would be great to explore. Give them like a romance. I would love to see that, or at least build that relationship. And fucking, I'll tell you what, like in the season 2 finale of the original Justice League, they reveal something very interesting about Hawkgirl that I don't want to say too much. People haven't watched that show, but it puts her in conflict with some members. That's all I'll say of the Justice League. And that I really liked. I really liked it a lot. Lou Boss, I don't mind Supergirl being more of a party girl, but I was questioning how the hell she got back to the planet if she couldn't fly. If she couldn't fly? I feel like she can fly. She's just drunk. She's splintered. I feel like Gunn could have just written it with her going to planets that have alcohol strong enough to affect her, raises less questions. Oh, because I guess they say like, maybe that's the case. I don't know. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I guess that didn't really bother me all that much. I'm like, oh, all right. I know this is the least relevant part of the original movies. I know. People are like, don't you understand? They turned him black. Why you ain't fucking Ghost Jor-El and Superman 2? I also love the teases we are getting. Lex going to prison where Cersei is Katrina. Oh, it's true. The Batman Easter egg in the highway. Yeah, you see when people are evacuating Metropolis, you see turn this way to go to Gotham City. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go there. And Chris Superman, I think, lead directly in their movie. Yeah. Maybe it's a warning of what Zod will do. Yeah, maybe. I think we'll find out. I think they're going to go back to that message again. Because it's such a hot button issue. I think they're going to address it again. But we'll see. There's a great review on Letterboxd from Zoe Rose Bryant, who loved the movie, by the way, where she's like, imagine a parent trying to explain the concept of a harem to their kid on the drive home. Yeah, it's so weird, right? Yeah. Well, my issues is the engineer, but we don't know Kryptonian society. Like, that's the thing. Like, maybe on Krypton, that's like, it's fucking, yeah, well, everyone has a harem. One of those things. Because you even look at, there's so many different takes on Kryptonian society. Like, even in Zack Snyder's, which, again, I'm not even as critical as I am of Man of Steel, and I'm very critical of that movie, as you guys know. One of the interesting aspects of the film is how he handles Krypton and their society. Like, it's fascist. They don't even have sex, like breeding's controlled. They don't even have sexual relations with each other. Like Kal-El, is born out of a biological, conception. And fucking Zod's like, fucking heresy, how'd you fucking put your penis in her vagina? Like, he can't, he's like, I can't, Oh, it's so crazy. So, again, this might be a very different take on Kryptonian, just culture. We'll see. She has no motivation besides hating aliens. Like, why does she hate Superman so much? I feel like we missed, I'm sorry, the engineer. I was like, I know who you're talking about. One of my issues, the engineer, besides your boss, surely has no motivation besides hating aliens. Like, why does she hate Superman so much? I feel like we missed Lex manipulating her to go with Metal Gear. That's fair. Metal Gear. Nanomachines. That's fair. I like her powers. Is that also the fucking Borat's daughter? Is that the same actress? Is that Borat's daughter? That sounded just like her. I was like, is that her? It sounds just like her. Part of the film is Lex Luthor literally pulling a Mr. Burns having monkeys troll Superman. That is pretty funny. The rule of Baravia was reminiscent of Netanyahu at all. Wink, wink. Oh, I know. There is also that. Yeah, little Israeli Palestine. Rank the actors who have played Lex Luthor from best to worst. Best is Clancy Brown. Worst. I can't. There's so many. That's like best Clancy Brown. Worst is Jesse Eisenberg. In terms of live action. I think live action Nicholas Hoult. I think Nicholas Hoult is the best, followed by Michael Rosenbaum. Second best. Gene Hackman. Third. Kevin Spacey, and then Jesse Eisenberg. And that's all of them. There might. I know there's more. There's more. There's also the Superman Lois. I forgot. There's too many. I can't. The best Lex Luthor still to this day, in my opinion, is Clancy Brown. Worse is Jesse Eisenberg. And I like Jesse Eisenberg. I just think that the choices made were terrible. Yeah, this is probably my favorite version of Jim. I like that he's a fuck boy now. He's a boy that likes to fuck. The Raptors uniform looks like his power. So yeah. Another thing I like is the Easter egg with the mural in the Hall of Justice. I think got a little experiment with period movies. Yeah, because he wanted to do Sergeant Rock, and I guess I don't know if that's happening now. But I would love that. I would love that they did a JSA movie. That'd be really cool. Set it during World War II. Hell yeah. Yeah, she said in the interview that she wants to do Jones. Oh fuck yeah. Oh, that's the case. Then all right, then that's good. Okay, then I'm willing to still give it a shot. Then they just need to do more with her. But if that's the direction we're going in, is doing the Jon Stewart romance, then cool. So they really are fucking doing they are really borrowing a lot from the DCAU. That's great. Do you think Supergirl knows about the whole harem thing? Good question. I would immediately. Okay, here's a good thing that maybe they should have addressed. Here's a criticism. He should have asked about that. He would have been like, "Hey, I know you've been gone for however many days, and I've been looking after your fucking dog, or weeks, or probably in her case. My parents talked about a harem, that's what they wanted me to come here and lord over humanity. It's you know anything about that? That's I think is a good question, and maybe I think what will happen is we're going to see a lot of. I mean, this is a guess. I don't know if this is definitive, but I feel like we're going to see a lot of Krypton with Supergirl. And they're going to explore, because she's a teenager. People don't know. She's a teenager while Krypton is still going on. It's not like she was a baby like Kal-El. It's no. She was on Krypton when it fucking exploded, and she got off of it and stuff. And, and I mean, different versions, her rocket, got sidetracked or whatever, or it was damaged, in the launch and stuff. And that's why she came later to Earth and things. They can probably do that. We'll see. But I feel like they should explore Kryptonian society. So to answer your question, I mean, I hope so. Maybe she reveals some truths. Yeah, she said she goes plans where some people have been questioning how does she get back. Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, that doesn't really bother me though. Before I'm okay, yes. There is. It's not like a deal breaker for me though. It's again, it's the scene itself that's supposed to be funny that she's a mess, but it's okay, I'm just not as bothered by that. You're not wrong, but I'm not bothered by it at all. I don't really give a shit. Why Bradley Cooper plays dad just a waste? Who's to say that he's not gonna continue playing Jor-El? If he's in Supergirl, which is why plus James Gunn casts all of his a lot of his friends in small roles. Alan Tudyk is the voice of the Superman robot. Palm Clementif is also the voice of one of them. I think Michael Rooker is the voice of a Superman robot in there too. So, I mean, that's what he always does. I mean, if you're going to critique that, then you have to go throughout all of his movies and critique that too. But that doesn't bother me at all. I think we're going to see more of Jor-El in the Supergirl. No, it's not Borat's daughter. Okay. Gunbean teasing what a Superman 2 could be. I have a feeling instead of Batman and Superman, it'll be Superman and Supergirl teaming up. Maybe I think Superman's going to be in Supergirl. I think David Cornsweet is in that movie. I think they're going to do World's Finest. I really do. I'm very confident in that now. We'll see. Worst is Eisenberg of the Bullet. Yeah, he's pretty bad. He's the only bad one. I guess so. I guess you're not wrong. I like how they hinted Jimmy knowing Clark's Superman at the end. Yeah. Last question I want to ask. Not that we have got the first week numbers. Do you think it'll reach 600 million? Sure. I'm not really keeping it because I think it would have made $225 million worldwide or something like that. Did pretty well. I hope it does well. There's a lot of content creators that obsess over the box office. That they're all about the numbers, and I'm just thinking are we fucking are we box office analysts or are we movie critics? I think Chris Ayers, you actually brought that up a while ago. I think you're kind of tired of this hyper analyzation of the box office for all these movies, or really anything. And my whole thing is just I hope it does well. You know, I hope it makes a lot of money so we can keep getting more of these movies because I really enjoyed it. I don't know how much it's going to make. I have no fucking clue. You know? So, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm just not really hyper-focused on it. You know, I want the movie to do well so I can get more. That's what I'd like to see. So, I hope it makes $600 million. You know, I mean, it has this week because I don't think a Smurfs is going to make a dent in the box office, and nor do I think, and I'm not dismissing, I know what you did last summer. I'm just not as passionate about it as, for example, with Scream, for instance. But I think Superman's probably going to be number one again this week, so. The Weapons trailer, you seen it, Chris? Yep. It looks really cool. Can't wait. Looking forward to that movie. I really like Zach Cregger as a filmmaker, especially if they're a barbarian. Cooper and David Krumholtz, who replaced Supergirl's father as brothers, is interesting casting. Ooh, Cooper and David Krumholtz. David Krumholtz. Let me see what this guy looks like. David Krumholtz. Oh, interesting. Oh, this guy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's been a lot of stuff. Yeah, fucking the elf. He's the elf from the Santa Claus. No, listen. I can see it. He's like Jor-El's little brother. No. I see it. I am here. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, so you know, like you're like, wait, who? Huh? Who? Yeah, this guy. Yeah, this guy's gonna be Supergirl's father. No, I see it. You even look at him like it's like, oh, that could be a relative of David Cornsweat's. Yeah. No. I do see it. Mm-hmm. I think that's fine casting. I don't have any issue with that at all. No, that actually looks good. It's based on Monster in Life, but at least he felt like yeah. Yeah, this whole obsession with the box office nowadays, like it's end all be all. Movies' relevance in life gets so much. It's just like it's so. I mean, it's like all these big channels, even people I like. You know, it's just like, fucking Christ. I mean, are we gonna like? I don't know why in some cases people just are less focused on the quality of the film itself than more of the box office. We're just like, yeah, if it does well, then that's great. If it makes a lot of money, I can't wait. But like some people talk about it like it means everything. It's just like, shut up. It's like is the fact that one of my favorite movies of all time, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, right? Does the fact that it was a box office failure diminish its cultural impact now? Or diminish the fact that I love that movie? No, I don't give a fuck. I love that fucking movie. I have some of the films that you see right here. We're not commercial failures. Big Trouble in Little China was also a box office failure. I fucking love that film. Both these two movies are in my top 10 films, you know? Like, it's like, I think people like to use it as a justification for, like, that's why my movie is so good, you know? Or why that movie is so bad because I didn't like it, and the box office numbers provide that. Well, like, if that's the case, then I guess John Carpenter's The Thing is the worst movie ever made. And I guess Big Trouble in Little China is also the worst movie ever made, right? It must be fucking terrible. It must be so bad, right? Or it means like, oh yeah, Jurassic Park. It didn't make as much as the Three World movies, and so therefore the Three World movies are better than Jurassic Park because those three movies made more money. It's like, shut up. You know? It's like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh. Will Trump be pushed back because of Leto's antics, you think? I don't know. I like the trailer for that movie. I don't like Jared Leto at all. But I don't think it's being pushed back. They don't really seem to give a shit. Hollywood's like, this guy's the best actor ever. We're putting him in all of our major franchises. Like, why? Why? I don't really get it. Spurs is going to bomb worse than Megan 2 It's going to be pretty bad. It looks fucking terrible. It looks terrible. The elf from Santa Claus, he was just an opera. Yeah, that's right. He was. Yeah, this is Jiminy Cricket. You're not wrong. I love David Krumholtz. Good for him. Yeah, good for him. No, I think that's good casting. I don't think that's bad casting at all. He looks like a member of the family of the House of L. I was like, oh shit, yeah. I was like, what's it? I couldn't put the face in the name. I mostly have him from Oppenheimer on the brain, but looking younger pictures. I can see it now. Yeah. It's the dark hair. It's the dark hair and the facial structure. One thing I think sums up some of my issues with this is I feel like Gunn went out of his way to make a kids movie. I'm not completely into his version of that. I think what he was doing and some people say it was like a really big overcorrection for Man of Steel. I think what he was doing was essentially like, I am going to embrace the foundational aspects of Superman that we have not seen theatrically in over a decade. There is that. You know, being very hopeful, very kind, very warm, fucking corny. This movie's corny. And I think that could be as a shock for a lot of people who have seen Superman not act that way over the last, decade and a half now. Because he hasn't, and it's almost kind of weird, even though it's typically how Superman has been often portrayed. And I think the other thing of it now to say, like, it being like kids movie like this, it feels like Superman the animated series. It feels like a Silver Age comic where there's some weird, goofy shit in this film, 100%. But I can only speak for myself. That's what I liked about it. I liked how weird it is and how colorful it is, and I think for some people, I'm not saying this is how you feel, but I can only guess is like, for some people that's kind of like a fucking, like, it's like getting hit with cold water. It's like, it's a shock when you're used to seeing Superman portrayed in a certain way for the last decade and a half. I like it though, because I think it gets back to what I like about Superman. So, I go back to that story Edgar Wright told of Scott Pilgrim Tank open weekend, him being terrified that his career might be over, and him getting an email from someone at Universal just said years, not days, and now that movie looked as now it's a classic, now it's beloved. Now, they're making sequels to it. They're making an anime spinoff of it, So that's what happened. You become a cult classic, So, welcome, 30 to see you. Chris, you have to agree that Leto is House of Gucci is gold. I do not. Unintentionally funny, yes. You think James Gunn got some inspiration from the version of Ultraman from the Boys comic with Black Noir? Oh, you know what? That never even crossed my mind. I don't know. Maybe. I guess I can kind of see it now. I wasn't thinking about that. But, sure. I guess, yeah. Maybe he borrowed it from that. Stole it. But I thought it worked. I knew what he was, though. Like, okay, like this is clearly either, a clone or it's a Superman from a different dimension. It was like, it's one of the two. I was like, all right, I was right with number one. That's why I didn't want to say anything about Ultraman, at least during my review. How many kids' movies had the villain? Excuse me, that's true. That's true. Like, he blew his brains out. Yeah, that's true. Like, he does get violent. Some of that morbidness of James Gunn's creeps in. It's him bringing the classic element of Superman to the forefront and then challenging them with the whole Jor-El thing while not breaking them in a way that's irreversible. Yeah. But Gunn's scene making me interested in seeing these characters. Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. James Gunn says Billy Alcock Supergirl will be a total mess. Yeah. I read that too. She's had a completely different background from Superman, a much more difficult background. Yeah. Now I'm interested to see that. That will be your darker. I think that'll be your darker Superman story. So if you're yearning for more of that, I think you're going to get that there. Which will be interesting to me because I have seen some Supergirl adaptations in which it is darker, but perhaps it's most recently, which was my favorite interpretation of Supergirl, My Adventures of Superman. I would love it if they did that. I don't think they're doing that, but maybe that would be a cool, like, interesting thing if they do that, where great introduction to Brainiac, too. I think that would be fascinating. We don't know. We know Lobo will probably be one of the villains of the movie. Maybe initially allies, later a villain. Or maybe vice versa. We don't know. But I don't think he's going to be the main bad guy. But I would be on board. Like, really. But I'm looking forward to Supergirl. I just don't know anything about it. Know that much. Outside of what's been told to us. But if James Gunn, he's not even directing the movie, I should say. I forget the director. But if they do what they did in My Adventures of Superman, where Kara Zor-El is essentially raised by Brainiac, and it's like a really fucked up father-daughter relationship where Brainiac, who's insane and clearly can't keep it together, and is using her and abusing her and is very psychologically and emotionally and physically abusive, that would be really interesting to see. And it would also, because, Brainiac, he's a big, larger-than-life villain. That's often how he's portrayed. Very grandiose, I come to your planet to absorb its knowledge, and I will destroy your planet because it is worthless to me. I am Brainiac, right? That's typically how he's portrayed. But if you introduce him in an intimate way like that, where it's like, that's like his overall goal, yes, but most of the time you see him just manipulating Kara the entire time, and him like, I mean, just gaslighting her, and be like, I'm the one that's been there for you. I've raised you, and you're the future of Krypton, and I just want what's best for you. And you're making me hurt you. And I don't want to hurt you, but I have to hurt you because you need to learn this lesson. Like, doing shit like that, that would be a really interesting take on Brainiac that at least we have not seen theatrically. Certainly in the animated series or in My Adventure Superman, where he's that way all the time. I would fucking love that. And you can bring in, what's his name? You can bring in, who does the voice for him? Oh, God. My Adventures with Superman. I'm losing. I should have known his name. Superman, Brainiac. Voice actor. Michael Emerson, who is the voice of him. He does a great job because, he's also has a history of playing odd characters, villains, in things. He would be, I would just be like, fucking cast him as Brainiac. If you guys have never seen My Adventures of Superman, which I encourage you, I actually just created a short today. Or I should say I uploaded a short today. For my YouTube channel, talking about the show in relation to just Superman in general. And this is his design. It's also a very different take on Brainiac. Like he's always clothed in something too, to appear more human. Because that's also like part of his obsession. He wants to be kind of more like a Kryptonian. It's really, he's like, yes. It's a really cool take on the character. And if they were to do this, I'd be all for it. That would be great. Yeah. It was a bit of a spoiler right there, but yeah. Good shit. But I don't know if that's what they're doing. But that'd be a great way to introduce the character. And I think that would also get a lot of people, maybe who weren't necessarily on board, so like Supergirl, like, okay. On board, but if you say like in Brainiac's the main villain, be like, oh. Like I think that would excite a lot of people. Let's see here. Also, where's Chloe's country accent? People have always brought that up. Why doesn't he have a country accent? That's very funny. I got nothing for that. The Kryptonian accent, man, it's strong. It's with you from birth.